Hello and good morning to the second look that we're doing in the 3 days of Prada quads, a little mini series that I'm hosting on my channel to give some love to my beloved Prada quads. Just in case this is the first video that you're tuning in for in this series, I've already done my base makeup, so my foundation, concealer, powder, my brows are on, and a very important detail that I forgot to mention yesterday when I mentioned again that I've already done my base is I have eyeshadow primer on. I thought it an important little detail to mention because I never leave the house without an eyeshadow primer. I have such oily eyelids that if I don't use an eyeshadow primer, my eyeshadows are going to crease within a few hours. So just so you know, base makeup always includes eyeshadow primer, even when I forget to mention it. Okay, the rest of the makeup we're actually going to do together, and the first product I'm going to reach for is going to be my beloved Gucci bronzer. This one is in the shade 3, which is a somewhat more warm tone shade of a bronzer, because I think that would look really fitting with the eyeshadow look that I'm going for today, which based on my clothing and the fact that you saw the pure quad on my thumbnail implies that we're going to be doing a rather warm toned look today. And don't worry, I think I'm going to close off the series with a bang and we're going to do a very cool toned look for that. Now, a blush that I for some reason always forget to use is one of the limited edition Suku bronzers from a couple of years ago. It's this very pretty, very vibrant pumpkin orange blush, and for some reason I always forget. Like, I always go for my other two melting powder blushes from Suku. I have the shades 05 and 08 and I absolutely love those and I use them all the time, including on camera. But for whatever reason, I always forget about this blush. I think because it's just such a specific color that a lot of times I think it's not going to fit the look, which is not quite true actually, because while it looks quite intimidating in the pan, you can see it's translating to a really beautiful sort of like, yeah, I mean, it does have an orange hue to it, so it is kind of restricting in that sense, but it's really not that different from using a somewhat more coral blush or something. So I should just really make it a point to not forget this blush and use it a bit more often. This comes from a time when I was obsessed with the melting powder blush formula from Suku, and I was trying to get into Suku. For some reason, I never really got into the brand. I very much have respect for the types of products that they make, and I think their melting powder blushes are one of the best formulas out there. But at the same time, as a whole, as a brand, I never really got into Suku. I had one eyeshadow coat from them, which I decluttered already because I was just never using it. It just didn't ever impress me so much that I would think of it and use it on the regular. So I passed it along to a friend of mine already quite some time ago. So I really only have the melting powder blushes. Oh, I do have one of their regular blushes, which again, in my opinion, is just fine. It's a nice blush, but it's just fine. Okay, for highlighter, I'm going to take the highlighter that was from the same limited edition collection as the blush. This one is also in the shade 101, and I think it will fit the look perfectly. If I were brutally honest with you, I think if I had to downsize my Suku collection, I would keep the melting powder blushes in 5 and 8, and I would probably pass along everything else, including this highlighter, the blush that I used, and the other blush that I have from them, which is in their permanent line of pressed powders. Not that any of them are bad, it's just that to me they're a bit meh. I could have them, I could not have them, I wouldn't really miss them in my collection. I'm going to set all the powders on my face with a little bit of the Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray from Charlotte Tilbury. And I know that's blasphemy to say, I know a lot of you are huge fans of Suku, and I can certainly understand the appeal, but tastes and what works for everyone will always subtly differ between people. So while brands that work really well for you might be a little bit more, not underwhelming, but just okay for me, perhaps the other way around is true as well. Brands that I'm really impressed by are just meh to you. I've zoomed you in a little bit so we can get started on the eye look with the Pure Quad from Prada. The first eyeshadow I'm going to go into is this one here in the center, which is a slightly warm orange toned caramel shade. It's not really orange, but honestly, depending on your undertone of skin, it might come across really orange. Like, even on me, you can see that the orange undertones are strong in this one. So this quad is definitely one that is not going to suit you if you have a certain type of undertone to your skin. I quite enjoy it, especially in the summer. It's your standard warm-toned orangey, bronzy shades with a pop of blue, but I do think that it offers something more unique. You will see that the blue in this palette is kind of like this really interesting cornflower blue undertone, and I think that's what sets this palette apart to a lot of other similar type eyeshadow palettes, because most of the time the blue that you're going to get from those kind of palettes is not the cornflower blue. Now unfortunately, because my dress has a very specific undertone, like it's that deeper navy sort of blue, I'm not going to be using the cornflower blue today. Hopefully you're not too disappointed, but it is a really beautiful undertone of blue, and I will specifically go into this palette sometimes to use this specific shade of blue. I'm going to take just a little bit of glitter glue to apply on my lids and my inner corners, so that we can go into the metallic shade. And again, I'm going to use the good old fingers to apply this beautiful, sort of more neutral toned gold shade. I really like the undertone of the gold because it's quite bright, so it has this lovely brightening effects on the lid. I really like this shade. This is also the quad that started my love affair with Prada quads. It was the first one that I purchased. I'm now thinking, since I don't want to really use another palette, I'm just going to take the gold shade and I'm going to apply it also in my inner corners, because it is quite bright enough for that as well. So I know a lot of you are also huge fans of the Prada eyeshadow formula. I wonder, what is your favorite quad out of the ones that you have purchased? I am going to throw a little bit of a curveball here, because I would like to go into the Pulse quad now and take this orange shade. This orange shade unfortunately doesn't quite fit the orange that is on my dress, which is why I gave up on the idea of making that sort of like the central part of the look, because I'm actually quite curious how this color works with the warmer tones in this color story. I've wondered about this ever since I purchased the Pulse quad, so I'm going to run just a tiny bit of that here on the lower lashes. And I love the formula of these pops of color in the Prada quads, because they have this really soft formula which allows you to apply them quite sheer. So instead of really being a punch of color, they're just like a hint of color, and they just look so soft and so blurring. Absolutely love them. Oh, that looks rather lovely. You can see it's not so punchy and orange that it immediately like makes a statement like, hey, I'm there. It's just there. And I think it works beautifully with this color story. And just to add a little bit of depth here in the base of my lashes, I'm going to go back into the Pure quad and I'm going to take the deepest brown in here, and I'm going to run that on just like very close to my lashes. I'm not going to wing it out or anything. It's going to be more like a soft diffused faux liner kind of moment, and you can also see how much lighter this shade applies compared to the pan. And that's what I was referring to yesterday when I was talking about these cream to powder mattes from Prada, that they just don't pack the kind of punch that you would get from a pressed powder eyeshadow. Like if you had a pressed powder eyeshadow in this color, this would appear so much deeper on the lids, but because it's this specific formula, you can't really build it up to be much more than this. I know you would be utterly disappointed if I didn't add any blue to this look, because there's so much like blue details going on to my dress, including a little plastic flower that you can't see that's on my belt. But I am going to add just a touch of blue. I don't want it to be too much, because I was envisaging more like this type of look today, but I am going to put a little bit of this super old pencil from Urban Decay in the shade Accuse right here in my waterline, and that's going to be our blue little detail. Decided to stick with Prada also for my lipstick, and I'm wearing the Soft Matte in the shade Cyan. Just in case it is appearing as if this is a very shiny lipstick, no, it's a creamy matte. But I was wearing a lip gloss prior to this, which I didn't wipe off very well. I just wiped it off a bit willy-nilly so that it comes off for the most part. I didn't mind that a little bit of shine was left behind, but that also made the lipstick applied much shinier than it usually would. So just in case anyone thought that these are very shiny lipsticks, they are not. They are just your classic creamy matte formula. Anyway, I am going to leave it at this. I hope that you enjoyed this second look, and we're going to see each other tomorrow to finish off this series with a really cool toned look. I have a really beautiful cool toned look in mind. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you thought about it. As usual, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!